Shuey here, Williams 1964 San Francisco machine, 2-player. Fun machine. See in the center here? This is a dial that goes right or left, depending upon which of the advance bumpers you hit. By turning the dial from one way to the other, we get these different colored lights here lit up, and we get 100 points per lit indicator when you go out through the gobble hole. Right there, gobble hole. This is the last machine to use the gobble hole. Other interesting things. We've got some kind of Chinese-y looking ladies, a few neighborhoods, Coit Tower, Chinatown. Down here we've got a cable car, some fake Chinese writing there. And on the playfield, we come down here, see this nice Chinaman and the Golden Gate Bridge with the Coit Tower, must be Russian Hill neighborhood there, and Chinatown and cable car, maybe Nob Hill. It's been a fun machine. Not in too bad a shape. It was very moldy. The glass underneath, a lot of mold, but not a lot of rust. Most of the rust was here, the front door. The field itself isn't that badly worn, except for here where these pop-up holes. When you land in each of these holes, you advance right or left 5 steps and get 5 points. Starting from the beginning, I looked around in here. It was moldy. There were not a lot of cobwebs, and I was just looking for any loose wires, obvious bad connections. I was also overwhelmed by all the relays, switches, cams. There's a counter here that shows number of plays. I believe it's about 70-something thousand. There are 4 fuses here, which were all good. The markings for what amperage are there. There's labeling on this, so it's kind of nice. Coin box was rusty down in this area, but it had been drilled out. So I don't think anybody had been using it with coins for a while. I plugged it in. There's a ratty brown wire going to this large transformer, and nothing happened. I read that you're supposed to press the left flipper button to get the machine to start, and it would not. Finally, I had someone come over to help me, but I noticed another fuse under this reset bank. It's a very large bank powered by that solenoid. Replace that, and voila. We get power. Now the first thing that happens is we get the lights. And most of the lights in the back head were working, including these blinky ones. Have replaced a few. Bought a bunch of stuff from Pinball Resource. Bought new rubbers, of course. The first problem I had once it started was it would not reset to 0 on these reels, and so then the machine would not get ready for a new game. There is a lot happening up here in this head unit, and I had to only lightly lubricate a lot of axles. I did not want any lube on anything else. Apparently it picks up metal dust. To figure out how to get this, I was manually resetting the wheels to 0, and I did manage then to get the game to start. Areas that were problematic: the center arrow. This should increment and go back the other way one at a time when you do the other. And it was stuck. This match unit should also increment. It was pretty stuck. This is the player selector stepper. That was very stuck. So a lot of cleaning. Also the pivot arms on a lot of these, this is our credit unit, were dirty. Had to fix those. The major problem I had with the reels was reel number 1, or the ones unit, more on player 1, was sticking at 9 and not going to 0. Turns out there's a cam on this axle, and it gets wider to make another plastic lever pivot and open a switch. So we know it's at 0, and it was binding there. I ended up cleaning, not having success, and ultimately I added a rubber band on the one spring and loosened the other spring by adding a couple loops of paper clip. So that works well now. It increments 1s and it goes back to 0. In the future I could swap the 1 and the 100s, as the 100s is a lot less worn out. One other thing I did was I applied a little bit of Tri-Flow, which is lubricant with Teflon, right at the pivot point between the two plastics, and that seemed to help. The way I created a lot of problems for myself. At some point I knocked these relay switches out of kilter, so they weren't overlapping correctly. That jammed something. At one point I spun this wheel for credits too far and had these brown things offset by a quarter turn. This was making the credit 0 switch be open even when it wasn't at 0, so then my credit switch was no longer incrementing from the front. Other problems that I created, I knocked off wires, bad solder joints up here, knock off one, solder another. That was a problem. An early problem that we had was this very toasty looking relay on the match unit, which advances, I believe, with every unit count, was not releasing. It was staying very hot. I believe this is an old problem, given that here was that the jet center pop bumper here, when it was struck, the bumper was not pulling down. The ring pulls down and then it whacks the ball. So, why was that? I spent a long time looking at the other two pop bumpers here and here, and found out there was a relay that engaged but then should disengage, because as this pop bumper comes down, it opens a second switch. Let's see if we can see that here. It comes down, there's a leaf switch that it strikes and opens. Well, if the bumper's not pulling down, the leaf switch not opening, and it was sticking the solenoid in the back. I traced that back to the set of switches, leaf switches that supplied this center jet, and found that the supply switch to this solenoid, which is over here on the right of this set of relay switches, was dirty. So a little bit of cleaning there, and it worked.